I stood frozen on the front porch of a house, filled with memories I had tried so hard to bury. Beside me, Jenna squeezed my hand gently, her touch grounding me in the present moment. Through the frosted glass window, I could see silhouettes moving around inside, and I knew Megan was somewhere among them. She had no idea I was coming today. 6 months earlier, she had walked away from 3 years of devotion, claiming she needed freedom. Now I was about to enter her family gathering with her own sister by my side, and everything was about to change forever. Before we dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from by leaving a comment below. If you believe everyone deserves to be treated with respect in a relationship, tap that like button right now, and subscribe to this channel if you want more real-life stories that touch the heart. Now let me take you back to where this all began, to the night my world fell apart and slowly rebuilt itself in the most unexpected way. The first time I saw Megan, she was commanding the attention of an entire room without even trying. It was a networking event hosted by my company, and I had gone reluctantly expecting nothing but awkward small talk and stale finger food. But then I noticed her near the refreshment table, surrounded by colleagues who hung on to her every word like she was delivering some kind of sermon. She had this radiant energy, a confidence that drew people in like moths to a flame. When she caught me staring from across the room, she did not look away. She smiled, raised her glass slightly, and suddenly my feet were carrying me toward her before my brain could catch up. That night changed everything. We talked until the event staff started dimming the lights, and by the time I walked her to her car in the parking garage, I felt like I had known her for years instead of hours. She gave me her number, and I spent the entire drive home replaying every moment of our conversation. Within a month, we were inseparable. Within a year, I could not imagine my life without her. 3 years together felt like building something permanent. We took a road trip to Big Bend National Park during our first anniversary, spending 5 days hiking through rust-colored canyons and camping under skies so full of stars they seemed impossible. Our first Christmas as a couple, she gave me a handmade scrapbook filled with photos and little notes about why she loved me. I must have read those notes 100 times over the years. I started putting aside money for an engagement ring, picking out the perfect one from a jeweler downtown. I had planned everything. I was going to propose on our 3-year anniversary, at the exact spot where we shared our first kiss, a little bridge overlooking Lady Bird Lake. But 2 months before that anniversary, something began to shift. The changes were subtle at first, so gradual I almost convinced myself I was imagining them. Megan started staying late at work more often. She used to text me throughout the day, random little messages that made me smile, but those messages became shorter and less frequent. When I called her during lunch breaks, she often let it go to voicemail. I told myself it was the merger her company was going through. She had mentioned feeling overwhelmed with the extra workload, and I wanted to be supportive. I started doing more chores at her apartment, cooking dinner so she could relax when she got home. Then came the night that planted the first real seed of doubt. I woke up around 2 in the morning to an empty bed. I found Megan sitting on the living room couch, her face illuminated by her phone screen. She was smiling at something, her thumbs moving quickly as she typed. When she noticed me standing in the doorway, she locked her phone so fast it nearly slipped from her hands. "Just a coworker," she said. Something about a project deadline. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. So I went back to bed and stared at the ceiling until morning. 2 weeks before our anniversary, Megan asked me to meet her at the coffee shop where we had our first official date. I remember feeling a flicker of hope. Maybe she was planning something special. Maybe all my worrying had been for nothing. When I arrived, she was already seated at a corner table, but her posture was different. Stiff, closed off. She was not looking at me when I sat down. She was staring at her hands, picking at her cuticles the way she always did when she was anxious. Then she said the words that cracked my world in half. "I think we need to break up. I need to find myself." I sat there in stunned silence, waiting for her to say she was joking. But she did not laugh. She said she felt stuck, like she could not breathe, like our relationship was holding her back from discovering who she really was. 3 years of building a life together, and she reduced it all to feeling suffocated. I asked what I had done wrong. I asked if there was someone else. She just shook her head and repeated that she needed space, needed to figure things out on her own. I drove home in a fog. When I walked into my apartment, I did not bother turning on the lights. I sat on the edge of my bed and thought about the engagement ring hidden in my dresser drawer, the dinner reservation I had made at the restaurant overlooking the lake, the future I had been so certain was ours. All of it evaporated in the time it took her to say 9 words. I sat there until the sun came up, replaying every moment of the past 3 years, wondering how I had missed the signs that everything was falling apart. The first 2 months after the breakup were brutal. I moved through each day like a ghost going through the motions of living, without actually being present. I woke up, went to work, sat at my desk, pretending to focus on code, came home and lay on my couch, staring at the ceiling, until exhaustion finally pulled me under. Food tasted like cardboard. Music felt like noise. Every corner of my apartment held some memory of her. Her favorite mug in the cabinet. Her shampoo still in my shower. The blanket she always wrapped herself in during movie nights. My best friend Marcus refused to let me disappear completely. We had been close since our freshman year of college, surviving terrible roommates and all-night study sessions together. He could tell from my voice during our phone calls that I was spiraling. One Saturday morning he showed up at my door, unannounced gym bag in hand, and told me I had 15 minutes to get dressed. I tried to refuse, but Marcus has never been the type to take no for an answer. He dragged me to the gym and made me lift weights until my arms burned, and my mind finally went quiet for an hour. Those gym sessions became a lifeline. Marcus also signed us up for a cooking class on Tuesday nights, claiming we both needed to learn how to feed ourselves properly. At first, I resented him for forcing me out of my comfortable misery. But week by week, something started to shift. The cooking class taught me how to make dishes. I actually enjoyed eating. The gym sessions gave me a place to channel all the anger and sadness I did not know how to express. I started reading again, picking up books I had meant to read for years but never had time for. I was beginning to rediscover the parts of myself that had gotten lost somewhere along the way. 3 months after the breakup, my manager called me into her office and told me I was being promoted to senior engineer. It was a position I had been working toward for years, and I remember thinking how strange it felt to receive good news when my personal life had been in shambles. I used the salary increase to put a down payment on a new apartment across town. A fresh start. A place that had never known Megan, where I could build a life without tripping over memories at every turn. I bought new furniture, painted the walls, a deep blue color I had always liked, and slowly began to feel like myself again. Then one evening my phone buzzed with a message from a number I had almost deleted a dozen times. Megan, I miss talking to you. Can we meet up? I stared at those words for a long time, my thumb hovering over the delete button. But curiosity won out. Maybe she wanted to apologize. Maybe she had finally figured out what she wanted. I agreed to meet her at the coffee shop where she had ended things. Partly because I wanted closure. Partly because I wanted her to see that I had survived without her. She looked beautiful when I walked in. She always did. But there was something different about her now. The confidence that used to radiate from her seemed muted, like a light that had been dimmed. We made small talk for a while. She told me about work stress, about a few dates that had gone nowhere, about feeling like she was searching for something she could not name. I listened and nodded, waiting for her to get to the real reason she had reached out. When she finally said it, I thought I had misheard her. What if we kept things casual? No strings attached. Friends with benefits. We always had such great chemistry, and I missed that connection. We could enjoy each other without all the complications of a real relationship. I let her words hang in the air between us. This woman had walked away from 3 years of commitment because she needed to find herself. She had broken my heart so she could have freedom. And now, after discovering that freedom was not as fulfilling as she expected, she wanted to keep me around as a convenient option. Not a partner. Not someone worth fighting for. Just a body to warm her bed when loneliness got too heavy. I reached for my wallet and pulled out enough cash to cover both our drinks. I placed it on the table and stood up, slowly making sure she could see the calm in my eyes. I gave you 3 years of respect and devotion, I said. I am not going to betray myself by accepting scraps. I am worth more than being someone's convenience. Her face shifted through a dozen emotions as I walked away. She called my name, but I did not turn around. Not once. That night my phone exploded with messages from her. She said I had changed, that I was too proud, that I was throwing away something good. I read every message, then blocked her number and deleted them all. As I lay in bed that night, I felt something I had not felt in months. Peace. I had finally chosen myself. About a month after that meeting with Megan, life threw me another curveball. I was cycling through downtown Austin on a Saturday morning, lost in thought about a project at work, when I hit a pothole I did not see coming. My bike stopped dead, but my body kept going. I went over the handlebars and landed hard on the pavement, my right wrist taking the worst of it. A jogger saw the whole thing and called for help. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in an emergency room, cradling my throbbing wrist and feeling embarrassed about the whole situation. The nurse who came to examine me had a gentle manner and a calm voice that immediately put me at ease. She introduced herself as Jenna and started asking the standard questions about my pain level and how the injury happened. It took me a few seconds to realize why her face looked familiar. The curve of her cheekbones, the way she tilted her head when she listened. She was Megan's younger sister. I had met her briefly at a couple of family dinners during my relationship with Megan, but we had never exchanged more than polite greetings. Recognition flickered in her eyes as she wrapped a blood pressure cuff around my arm. Wait a minute. Bob, you dated my sister, right? I nodded, unsure what to say. The awkwardness was palpable. But Jenna handled the moment with professionalism and grace. She smiled warmly, said it was good to see me even under these circumstances, and continued examining my wrist like nothing unusual had happened. As she worked, we fell into easy conversation. She asked about my job, told me about the challenges and rewards of working in emergency medicine, and before I knew it, half an hour had slipped by. There was something refreshing about Jenna that I could not quite name. Where Megan had always commanded attention with her volume and energy, Jenna had a quieter presence, one that made you feel heard rather than overshadowed. Before I left the hospital with my wrist wrapped and a prescription for mild painkillers, she said something that stuck with me. I hope you are healing okay. Not just your wrist. I know breakups can leave deeper injuries than any fall. 2 weeks later, fate brought us together again. I walked into a coffee shop near the hospital to grab something before a meeting and spotted her sitting alone by the window, a thick paperback open in her hands. She looked up when I approached, and her face brightened with a smile that felt genuine and warm. I asked if I could join her, and she pulled out the chair across from her without hesitation. We talked for over an hour, long past the time I should have left for my meeting. She told me about her dream of opening a small clinic for underserved communities, about growing up in her sister's shadow, about learning to find her own voice. I found myself captivated by her passion and honesty. When we finally parted ways, she gave me her number and told me to reach out if I ever wanted to get coffee again. Those text messages became the highlight of my days. We talked about everything and nothing, sharing random observations and deep thoughts with equal enthusiasm. She sent me photos of sunsets from the hospital rooftop. I sent her pictures of kitchen disasters that made her laugh through long night shifts. When I finally gathered the courage to ask her to dinner, she replied yes within seconds. Our first date was at a tiny Italian restaurant on the east side of town. The food was incredible, but I barely tasted it. I was too absorbed in her. The way she laughed without holding back. The way she listened, like every word I said mattered. We stayed until the waiter politely mentioned they were closing, then walked along the street talking until we ran out of sidewalk. A month of dates and late-night phone calls later, we decided to make things official. But there was a shadow hanging over us that we could not ignore. Megan. Jenna worried about how her sister would react, what it would mean for her relationship with her family. I understood her fear, but I needed to know her heart was in the right place. "Do you want to be with me because of who I am?" I asked her one night, as we sat on her apartment balcony. "Or are you with me, despite who your sister is?" She turned to face me, her eyes steady and certain. "I am with you because you see me, not as Megan's little sister, not as the quiet one in the family. You see me for exactly who I am, and that is everything." We agreed not to hide our relationship, but not to broadcast it either. We had nothing to be ashamed of. 3 months later, Jenna's mother found out about us and surprised us both by being completely supportive. She invited me to the family reunion, saying I had always been welcome in their home. Jenna was nervous. Megan would be there. But I took her hands in mine and told her the truth. "We have done nothing wrong. Let them see us for what we are." The front door opened, and Jenna's mother greeted us with an embrace that felt like coming home. She had always been kind to me during my time with Megan, but there was something different in her warmth now. Something knowing. She ushered us into the living room where relatives I vaguely remembered from past gatherings milled about with drinks in hand. A few of them raised their eyebrows when they saw me, but most offered polite smiles. News travels fast in families. Then Megan walked out of the kitchen, carrying a tray of appetizers. She was laughing at something her aunt had said, completely at ease. When her eyes found me standing in the entryway, with Jenna's hand in mine, the laughter died in her throat. The tray wobbled dangerously. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. "What is going on here?" Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. She set the tray down hard on the nearest table. "Jenna, please tell me this is some kind of joke. You are dating my ex. How could you possibly do this to me?" The room went silent. Every relative, every cousin, every aunt and uncle turned to watch the scene unfold. Jenna's hand tightened around mine, but she did not flinch. I had never seen her stand up to her sister before, but in that moment she transformed into someone unshakable. "He was not your ex when I started caring about him," Jenna said, her voice calm but firm. "He was just a good man you decided to throw away. And I was not going to let someone that special walk out of our lives simply because you could not appreciate what you had." Megan's face contorted with anger. "A decision I made for myself. I needed space to grow. That does not give you the right to swoop in and take what belonged to me. I never belonged to anyone," I said, stepping forward slightly. "Certainly not to someone who wanted to keep me around as a backup plan without any commitment. I am nobody's convenient option. Not anymore." Megan whipped her head toward her mother, expecting support. But her mother shook her head slowly. Disappointment etched across her features. "Megan, that is enough. You ended things with Bob. You made that choice. You do not get to control what happens in his life after you walk away." Her father spoke up from his seat near the fireplace. "We know what you proposed to him afterward. Friends with benefits, no strings attached. That is not how we raised you. That is not fair to anyone, especially a young man who devoted 3 years of his life to you." Realization crashed over Megan like a wave. Her entire family knew about her proposal. Her shameful secret had never been secret at all. Tears sprang to her eyes, and without another word she bolted from the room. The screen door slammed shut behind her. Part of me wanted to follow to make sure she was okay. But Jenna held my hand tighter, and I understood. Megan needed to confront this on her own. The reunion continued after she left. Relatives who had been silent earlier now approached me with handshakes and warm words. By the end of the evening, I felt more accepted by that family than I ever had during my years with Megan. A year has passed since that day. Jenna and I moved into a small apartment together last spring. Every morning I wake up beside someone who chose me completely, not out of convenience, but out of genuine love. We built our relationship on honesty and mutual respect, the very foundations Megan had taken for granted. I have heard through Jenna that Megan eventually apologized to her family and started therapy. I hope she finds whatever she is searching for. I hold no bitterness toward her anymore. She taught me something priceless, even if the lesson came wrapped in pain. She taught me that knowing my worth is not arrogance. It is simply refusing to accept treatment that diminishes who I am. If you have ever been in a situation where someone wanted you only on their terms, remember this: you deserve complete love, not convenient love. You deserve someone who chooses you fully, not someone who keeps you around as an option. Sometimes, the person who shatters your heart is not the one who will heal it. Sometimes your healing comes from someone unexpected, someone who is standing quietly nearby, waiting for you to finally see them. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever walked away from someone who tried to keep you as a backup plan? Did life surprise you with something better when you chose yourself? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing from this community. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. Subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this journey with me. I hope my story reminded you that you are worthy of love that chooses you completely. May you find the respect and happiness you deserve both from others and from yourself. Take care of your heart, and I will see you in the next one.